Greetings and welcome. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, licensed presenters, the Core New Core, my patrons, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor or student. I just have one title today, and it comes from this portrayal of what I would consider to be a family, and it's supposed to represent, I think, Mary, Jesus, and Joseph. But to me, the embodiment of that representation is that it was a family. And so for me, the happy holidays and the season's greetings are all about well wishes for you and your family. I'm Charlie's boy, one of two. Charlie and Elaine Miller had 4 kids, and anything I've ever done good in my life is because of them, and anything I've ever done bad in my life is totally because of me. So I was very blessed to have the family experience I did growing up. And still am grateful. And then my other note on family is my Pilates family, insofar as those I've made any connection to at all over the course of my career up to now, that has or resonates anything at all with the point of view of Pilates within my family, or the family that I have attracted, like you. You might think it's my sparkling personality, but really it's what I'm trying to hold the curtain aside to and point to, not necessarily here on Cornu, but just point to. I would hope that I still resonate with you. The message I've had all along is that Pilates has an essence of its own, and you can get to that essence straight as an experience, straight from Joe's book. And in understanding that, and in recognizing the experience for yourself, in yourself, and then recognizing it in others. They dive in, they chase, right? They search for sensation, for more control, and then the mind pops, usually thinking about something else, but you lose your focus and you come back up to the surface, wide-eyed, and really looking at the instructor, I think, as though they were there with them in that effort. And to some extent you are, And a big extent you're not. The MMP family, by and large, are just you. As part of that family, you're really bright. And you think for yourself, and there's some part that appreciates distinction, both intellectually and sensationally. And being willing to look at an explanation of Pilates rather than presuming that one does not exist. Or restricting one's point of view to there not being an explanation. So, what I would say there is, you will get a distinctive group of people that choose not to look at explanation of any sort outside of the tradition of folklore, meaning knowledge passed by word of mouth from generation to generation. But that will continue to be a subset of the broader culture of Pilates, and that subset primarily I think of as historical recreationists, so dedicated to a historical recreation of the movement by a tradition of folklore, but making the distinction that without going to explanation, they're limited to what that point of view has to offer, or the extent to which. See, it all depends on where you want to plug in and how you want to survive as a Pilates instructor. And if you think who you are and who you know and how long you've been doing it is an immediate passport to surviving as a Pilates instructor, I don't need to tell you that. Look around. To the extent that the word Pilates is available to everyone at a price they can afford, diminishes the value of what you have unless you can distinguish between what you have and what everybody else has. And that would be an explanation of why it is what it is. Standing right on top of Joe's own words. However much you go to learn the words in the dictionary, or the exercises in the method, and what levels, and all the stuff that goes with each of the exercises. if I were to guess what draws you to listening to me, is wanting to understand what I'm talking about. And I'm really just talking about the identification of two things, and as such, two mountains of knowledge that are distinct from one another, but they're both pretty big, in my estimation, identifications. To the point that what my focus has become is wanting you to be a presenter of those two things, CT and MMP, and know how to make money doing it. I'm very blessed to have the Pilates family that I have. It's really geographically spread out. But the character and the quality of the people make me wish I could just wiggle my nose and bring them all into a convention with one another, just so that they could all meet and discover each other. And so social media has really helped a lot with that. I would hope that what attracts you to this broadcast is the message that Pilates has an essence of its own, that is an experience, and that's defined right by Joe in his book. And how you get to that experience, or how you get that experience, how you pursue that experience. Contrology develops the body uniformly. And then the sequence, then the definition of core new tension, oppositional rotation between axes, and then the MMP definition of Pilates, which is uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement. That's a big definition, but that's the best I could do. Uniform, because of number 2, contrology develops the body uniformly. How can you not have that part of the definition of what it is the means in which it's done uniformly. And then out from the middle, in his own words, out from the middle. Eccentric, the big word in Pilates culture, out from the middle, out from the middle, out from the middle. Loading because of gravity, and when you look at the sequence of the mat, the body takes on more and more of its own weight. So there's this progression of loading that's undeniably part of the choreography. You can dismiss it or not claim it's not there or say none of that matters, but there it is. Flowing through, because the exercise is meant to be done from the method is meant to be done moving from exercise to exercise without stopping, staying in a flow, flowing through what? Different exercises, but the exercises are arranged in the pattern of flexion extension first, then side bending, and then rotation. Fundamentally, expressing control, see, that's very important, expressing control within the ideals of the space that you find yourself in. And flexion extension in a symmetrical way in order to have maximum control of your movement in space. And so that pattern of flexion extension is primordial, get to the food and procreate before anybody else. Getting from A to B. And yet in the space that we occupy, the lateral dimension to the midline on the plumb line, thank you, Alan, the plane other than midline at 90 degrees that defines all the space that we take up on a practical level in our bodies. And it's those two ideals that we work within to make the magic of rotational dynamic that we're capable of. But still, rotation can be just as ideal as one plane versus another. So, maybe it's not much of a gift, but my gift to you all along, and especially over the last 1,272 days, the weekdays over that time period, my gift is my encouragement for you to be a presenter of those two bodies of knowledge. CT and its biomechanics. You can just focus on that and forget about Michael-Miller-Pilates. And take it into your view of Pilates or your view of yoga or your view of martial arts. CT applies to every body. It's the biomechanics the body engages in to move through space. I'm thinking of my biotensegrity advocates or points of view, and I can't believe anything would not include the actual realization that core new tension exists within the body, oppositional rotation between axes, that the body doesn't establish or have the capacity to make rotational dynamic. Who's kidding who here? And then once you leap to that admission, or at least know what you're seeing, whether you want to believe it or not, core new tension gives you more uniform engagement of your musculature, and it gives you a sensation of alignment. And so my gift to you is an understanding of biomechanics that nobody else is talking about. But you can feel it, just like with MMP, it's an experience. And the experience, MMP is a point of view of Pilates that is unique and transcendent, because it transcends out of a predominant view of folklore, knowledge based on word of mouth, passed from generation to generation. MMP is an explanation based on Joe's book. And the explanation explains the why of Pilates as the experience that comes from doing it. And once you know what the why is, the experience, then you can get around to talking about what it is and have some connection to why it is what it is, rather than just your opinion about what it is. And of course, this is all just my opinion too. But that's my gift to you for the holiday season, is the knowledge of the biomechanics of core new tension and an ideal point of view of Pilates. Based on Joe's own words in his book. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines, see behind the curtain. Connect the dots. Connect the dots. Evaluate points of view. So in the movie 2012, in a labor camp, someone says, "How many of you can speak English?" Because it was in a faraway land, and a few, pretty many people raised their hand. And then the next question was, "How many of you can weld?" And only one person raised their hand. I was like, "You, you, come forward." So capabilities and capacities and points of view, understandings. How many of you understand the MMP point of view, where there's an explanation and that you can share that explanation with the rest of us if we're not already aware of it? If you're not here to reinforce the explanation we're already making. Evaluate points of view, and then add 2 and 2. Direct your thinking and Geist.